we live in the most technologically advanced time in history, and also one of the most sedentary. With that, there's screens, there's work, there's digital work, there's all of these different things that grasp at our attention, that grasp at our energy, that grasp at our time. That is way different than how we evolved as humans. And secondly, I think as we look to become successful in this modern life, it's something that fades to the back. And our world isn't necessarily designed all the time for us to be more active and to move more. Sometimes it is set up for us to be sedentary and to be indoors and to be in these situations. And so I think we're fighting a design problem, and we're fighting an evolutionary mismatch where our bodies want to be outside and moving and doing all of these things, but our environment is actually set up some ways in the opposite.
Welcome back to the Energy Fix podcast. Today, we're going to be talking all about movement and really focusing on the part of movement that I think is so easy to get wrong. And that's, how do you make movement something that you actually want to return to? Something that excites you, something that motivates you, something that keeps you interested. Even when life gets busy, your energy gets inconsistent, motivation, maybe that is coming and going, right? We want to know, how can we stay consistent? Because consistency isn't usually a discipline problem. It's a design problem. It's friction, identity, stress loads, maybe not having a plan that actually matches the season that you're in. And my guest today is the perfect guest to be talking all about that. My guest is Kyle Gonzalez. He is a strength and conditioning specialist with a master's degree, a former D1 athlete, and he's spent the last decade helping people build sustainable health and performance. He's been featured in Men's Health, NBC News, The Washington Post, and Real Simple. And now he serves as Vice President of Performance and Coaching at Koya, which is a human performance startup. He's also the author of Move, Thrive, and Come Alive, and he's the host of the Vitality System podcast. We're going to be talking all about how to reclaim movement in this modern, amazing world that we're in, but also how to build consistency without burning out, and how to bring joy back into exercise so it supports your life instead of actually taking it over. All right, Kyle, let's dive in to this conversation. Welcome to the show.
Oh man, I am pumped up just hearing that intro, enthusiastic and ready. I appreciate you having me on, but yes, excited to dive into things today.
Oh, Kyle, this is my world too. I love this stuff so much. And I really love getting to converse and chat about something I'm passionate about with something that somebody else is really passionate about. And especially, I can tell you have so much excitement around this. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, it is something that, yeah, it oozes out of me, and sometimes I have to contain myself when I get on a platform because I just want to share so much and so excited about it all. But it's truly an important topic as well, and I think there's nothing more important that you could give someone than health and access and agency back in their life. So, wherever you want to start, let's dive on into it.
All right. Sounds good to me. All right. Let's start with a real question.
Yeah.
Why do so many smart, capable people really struggle to be consistent with movement, even when they genuinely want to feel better? What is your thoughts around this, and how can you expand on this concept?
Yeah, this is the $1 million question, honestly. And I think it is something that I don't think people purposely fall out of health or fall out of movement or fall out of these things. I think there's two things that that came to mind when you asked that question. One is we live in the most technologically advanced time in history, and also one of the most sedentary. With that, there's screens, there's work, there's digital work, there's all of these different things that grasp at our attention, that grasp at our energy, that grasp at our time. That is way different than how we evolved as humans. And secondly, I think as we look to become successful in this modern life, it's something that fades to the back. And our world isn't necessarily designed all the time for us to be more active and to move more. Sometimes it is set up for us to be sedentary and to be indoors and to be in these situations. And so I think we're fighting a design problem, and we're fighting an evolutionary mismatch where our bodies want to be outside and moving and doing all of these things, but our environment is actually set up some ways in the opposite. And there are some places where this is not the case. This is not a everywhere thing, but we spend 90 to 95% of our time indoors now. We all are spending hours on our devices, whether that's laptops, screens, phones, all of these things. And so I think it is up to us to just take a step back, be a little bit more intentional of how we create our environment, how we design our environment, so that we can fight a little bit of this friction that we're facing when it comes to movement.
Mm. And so you have a picture on your wall right behind you that I think
Yeah.
is the epitome of what you just said. And for those who
Yeah.
aren't watching, it says the best way to predict the future is to create it. And you're absolutely right. Not only just to create what you want, but also to create your environment to facilitate and to support this desire that you have, this design that you want. It really is all about the design.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I think for me, it's something I've had to come to terms with because as a practitioner, we live in this space on a day to day and we see how our environments are set up. It's actually not that ridiculous to think about people sitting 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day because you sit to drive, you sit to eat, you sit to work, you sit to watch TV, so it's like, okay, it actually makes sense. So how do you combat that? How do you then go on the other side of that? You have to bring a lot of intentionality, whether it's standing desks and less furniture and sitting on the ground when you can and taking movement breaks and exercise snacks and all of these things we hear. It takes effort. And if you are, a busy parent or a busy professional, sometimes these things start to float to the background. And so we'll talk a little bit about this today, I'm sure, of I don't necessarily think it's a time problem. I think it's a priority problem of just making sure it's higher on your priority list to bring these things into your purview to make sure that you're being intentional. Because, yeah, it doesn't take much. And that's what I try to advocate to people. It's not like you have to be moving and exercising for all the times of the day. It doesn't take much, but it does take intentionality.
Yeah, yeah. And I gotta share this with you because as you were talking, I'm remembering this time I worked with this client. She had me come to her house and she wanted to get into she wanted to get healthier in general. Food, some
Yep.
nutritional work, but also exercising and getting back into it. And she said, I just don't understand. I don't know why I can't stay consistent with my exercise workout.
Yeah.
I have all the weights, I have everything I need. I just can't seem to stay consistent. And I was like, all right, so why don't you show me where you're working out?
Yeah.
Kyle, I'm not even. So she takes me down into her basement, which is her workout room, quote unquote. I'm using air quotes here, right? She takes me down into the basement, her workout room that she's supposed to be inspired by is literally a little dank, dark corner in the basement. There's no windows. It's a little smelly because it's a basement, right? She has a few weights down there. She has like a bike, some kind of a recumbent bike that she's sitting
Yeah.
on. And and it's all tucked in. There's boxes all around it. And she's like,
Yeah.
I just this is where I'm working. I just can't stay consistent. I'm like, understandable. There is
Yeah.
nothing motivating about this place. So not only is it about everything that you're setting up, but it's also the
Yeah.
environment that you're in too. So I can't wait to hear about some of your frameworks and what you suggest for people in these kind of situations.
Yeah. Man, that rings so many bells for me because I've seen so many people that use their Peloton or their treadmill as their coat hanger or it's
Right.
collecting dust. And it's sad, but I
Yeah.
think, again, it comes back to this like you have to one understand yourself and set yourself up for success. And we all know what maybe our shortcomings might be, whether that be motivation, whether that be accountability, whether that be I just don't know what to do programming and all of these different things. And so luckily, we live in a time and a space where we have access to so much information. We have access to great coaches. We have access to great communities. And I think finding what works for you is really an important step. And just being ready for change and setting yourself up mentally for change, because it is hard. Behavior change is very, very hard. And so that's why I always break it down into like, okay, I always talk to my people that I work with like, what is realistic and what is ideal. We want to start with realistic because everybody wants to start with ideal. Everybody wants to start with 5 times a week, Kyle, 45 minutes in the gym, gonna do this, gonna do that, gonna get after it. And then when they miss one session, they throw the whole week away. And it's like, oh, I failed. I didn't hit 5. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to show up tomorrow. And guess what? I'm just going to order pizza because I don't feel great. And it all goes down from there. As opposed to like, hey, let's set up what's realistic for you. Can we start at realistic? Maybe it is, I'm just going to go for a 15-minute walk 3 times a week. Great. If it's more than what you're doing now, great. And I think being able to build the confidence, being able to build, like you said, the consistency, that is the number one piece. We see the cliches, progress over perfection, consistency over intensity. Those are true. And they couldn't be more true with if you can build the habit of showing up, guess what? You're telling yourself, hey, when I make a commitment, I show up for it. And even if it's 5 minutes, that builds, that grows momentum. And momentum is a very, very powerful thing, especially when it comes to health and movement. So, yeah, it's definitely one of those things I work with a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, before we really get even further into the frameworks, let's talk about your origin story, Kyle. Why fitness? When
Yeah.
did fitness become more than sports or aesthetics and really turned into something that you saw as a life skill?
Yeah. Oh man, this brings a smile to my face because as a kid, and hopefully as most people listening as kids, it wasn't exercise or fitness or any of that. It was just play and it was just be outside and be a kid and go do things and playing tag and playing sports and going to the park and going in nature. And that's really where my love started. My dad was a huge explorer. We would go to a different park every single weekend. And I think that kind of sparked the explorer's gene in me. As I grew up, my mom worked in hospitals for 20 plus years. So I was always around health. My father unfortunately passed away of cancer. And so that brought that into my life of like, there's these things that maybe we can or can't control. And when it comes to health. And so for me, it was okay, how can I learn to be the healthiest version of myself, the happiest version of myself, and prevent some of these things that might be lingering? I was also an athlete. And so when you're an athlete, you want to be the best at your sport. I was not at an early stage. I was not the strongest. I was not the fastest. I was not the anything. And so I was always that middle of the pack kid fighting to get a spot on whatever team it was. And I loved all sports, soccer, baseball, tennis, everything. And I was a competitor. So with that, it's like you got to learn and be scrappy on how you improve from a performance standpoint. And so that was kind of my entry point into really learning the science of anatomy and biology and how the human body works and mindset. I was cold plunging before cold plunges were cool, and I was doing all that experimenting. And that was what I loved, just experimenting and trying these things. And so I was fortunate enough to play college basketball. I walked on to that team and again, wasn't the best. Had to work my way. Had to really grind myself to make it to where the standard was on the team. I always joke I raised the team GPA because I love going to class, and I majored in exercise science. So that was always great. And from there, it was just like, oh my goodness, there's so much to learn and so much to know about movement in the human body. And that sometimes that's intimidating to people, like, I'm never going to learn all of this. To me, it's like, I can just be endlessly immersed in this space. And so recovery, nutrition, mindset, sleep, all of these things were huge to me. And I just went down the rabbit hole. I got my master's. I got the alphabet soup after my name of all the certifications you can get in different spaces and places. And then I had a realization of like, what does all this mean if I just hold it in as knowledge? Like, I want to express this and help people live better. And so that's where that led to. Teaching was great. I loved teaching, but I didn't feel as connected to my students and their change and all of that. So it was like, Kyle, you gotta be a practitioner. You gotta go work with people hands on, see the change, make sure these frameworks and ideas actually work and resonate with people. And it's funny because I always joke I went through all of the schooling and training and became a personal trainer. And it's like I see people who like took a weekend certification and they're a personal trainer too. But I took my craft so seriously and it didn't matter to me what everybody else was doing. It just mattered as, can I help the person that's in front of me right now? And so that led to a journey of writing and reading, working at startups, being at bigger companies, but still always working with people because yeah, there's no greater calling to me. Like we talk a lot about the company I work at, Koya. We don't have an occupation, we have a vocation. And that vocation is really to empower people to live better lives, to bring energy to their interactions, to not just live better today, but tomorrow and for the rest of their lives. And so that's kind of where it all stemmed from, is just being a kid who was curious, who wanted to learn more about the human body, being surrounded by health, being an athlete. And that now is expressed with this kind of unrelenting desire to want to continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to inspire, and continue to work with people to improve their health.
Mm. Kyle, I love this so much. You're talking, I'm like, you are my twin. There was
Yes.
just so much. How many times have you sat down with an exercise and physiology textbook for fun because you just wanted to know more? Because
Uh,
here, that was
yes.
me. Yeah,
We're kindred
yeah.
spirits for
Yeah,
sure.
I love it. I love it. Oh, so thinking about where you were and where you're at now, is there a word or a phrase that you feel that you've stepped into at this point of your life as you're catapulting into the next phase?
Oh, this is such a good reflection exercise for me. The word that I cannot get away from that I love and come back to all the time is vitality. And I have like this platform where I help people, friends, family, community, and I call it the Vitality System. It's also the name of my first book. And this word vitality just kind of encapsulates everything that I want to bring to life. And there's many definitions, but it's centered around strength and energy and the power giving continuance to life. And it just hits my soul when I hear the word vitality. And I think people throw it around in different longevity circles and health circles, but to me, bringing strength and energy and just really a presence to everything I do is really what I'm all about. And yeah, whether it's the person I'm working in front of, whether it's the book I'm reading, whether it's the content I'm watching, I really want to be fully immersed, fully present. I really want to bring energy. We have this term again that we also use at Koya called being a thermostat. Whatever room we come into, we want to set the temperature. And I think for me, that's so important. Whatever room I'm in, I want to make sure that I am bringing the energy to help raise everybody around me. And so in this Zoom and, virtual environment, that can be hard. And I've worked with hundreds of people online. And so you really, really have to focus on that energy piece because people really want to know that you're in this with them. People want to know that you're meeting them where you are. People want to know that you are really going to be in this fight with them. And so for me, energy and vitality is really something I keep coming back to because guess what? Like we control that. And no matter what happens, bad day, good day, left, right, up, down, rainy, sunny, I can bring good energy and I can bring good effort and I can bring good attitude. And so I try to make sure I control that with whatever interaction I'm in. So
Mm,
vitality is the word for me.
I love that. And really, I mean, especially with what we're going to be talking about today, vitality, the concept of vitality is so important because we expand way greater than our physical being. And so when we're talking about exercise or body movement or it's not just about the physical body. It's so much deeper. It's energetic, it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, like, it's everything encompassed in one. And I wanna drive that home for the listener right now
Yeah,
who's listening to this and thinking this is pure physical body. It is not. And I think that what you said right there really is the most beautiful catchphrase, all catchphrase of
yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is something that is just so important, and I'm glad you underscored, highlighted that because I work with so many people and it they can be a little single track minded on trying to get to a physical goal or physical outcome, but I try to help people expand on movement can do so much for you. And even just expanding outside of exercise, because people are like, oh, I need to exercise and exercise. I'm like, life is more than just exercise. What you do on that 30-minute gym session, I'm actually more concerned at what the other 23 or 23 and a half hours looks like and how we can optimize that. And so for me, like you said, now for me, I would argue that like movement and physical practice is actually more emotional and mental for me of a release of stress relieving of something that just like waters my soul, for lack of a better term, and just helps me show up as a better parent, as a better partner, as a better friend, as a better coworker. And when those things happen, guess what? Life is going to get better, and you're going to pour way more into the work you're doing, the people around you, and the relationships that you have. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where I try to keep reminders around. I try to keep that at the forefront of how are you, what energy are you bringing to all of these things? Because it can get easy to slip into the, whether it's my day is busy, victim mentality, there's things that are going against me, life can be unfair. But guess what? When we move our body, we create, and this is actually one of the concepts I talk about a lot. Movement to me isn't a drain of energy, movement creates energy. And research points to this everywhere, whether it's productivity, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's physical, actually being able to physically express yourself. Movement creates energy, especially when we recover properly. And so I think for people, if you are looking to have more energy in your interactions, have more energy at work, have more energy in all of the things that you do, movement is no better place to look.
Yeah. And this has really changed over time. Everything that you just talked about, this has really changed over time
Yeah,
as the world changes, as our demands change. And so
yeah,
let's look at the modern world that we're in right now. You
yeah,
talk about reclaiming movement in the modern world.
yeah.
What do you think the modern world has done to our relationship with movement physically and psychologically?
Oh man, this is such a good question, and I got to keep myself brief here. But the modern
You can
world, I
go on your
think,
soapbox. It's all right.
no, the modern world, I don't want to say everything is bad. I don't like the terms good, bad, this, that. I think it is just different. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, we have adapted environments now, and we're, in certain places. And obviously, we're privileged to live in this beautiful country and all of these things. And not everywhere is as privileged as we are, but where we live in abundance. And so we can do all of these things that actually don't require movement. And so, with that, we've really focused on efficiency, we've focused on convenience, and these things have led to us kind of what I call like engineering movement out of our life. And so we we even can sit to exercise. We can be on these reclined bikes and sit to exercise nowadays, which again for certain populations can be great. But again, I think for us, it's really thinking about how can we really get back to, and it's not like, oh, we got to get back to prehistoric times when we were moving all the time and outdoors all the time. But I think how can we start to reclaim some of this natural joy with movement? We all have things that we love to do that involve movement. Look, when we're moving, again, everything is changing. And so I think whether it's hiking, whether it's dance, whether it's sport, whether it's actually exercising, I love exercising and get tons of joy from that. I think for people, a lot of people think and put exercise in like this box and are like, Kyle, I don't like exercise. And I'm like, whoa. Like, I am positive that there's somewhere out there, some type of movement flavor that you actually do love. You just haven't found it yet. And so for me, it's really thinking about how can we start to test? How can we start to get out there and do these things that we've enjoyed throughout the course of our life that move our body? Whether that's, like I said, it could be simple as walks, it could be simple as just getting into green spaces, swimming, being by the water. All of these things are great uses and expression of movement in our lives. But I think we kind of relegate it into this box of it has to be in the gym, on a treadmill, with weights, all of these different things, which all are great. But I think if we can expand that definition, we can encompass a lot more joy within movement.
Yeah. Well, and you said that you don't like to use the terms good, bad, etc., any of these
Yeah.
terms that go along. Many people kinda do use it as a moral
Yeah.
scorecard, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm doing good, I'm doing bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm curious your thoughts here. What
Yeah.
does that mindset do to the nervous system when we start to categorize it as either good, bad, or any other terms that you might use, and how do you help people shift that mentality?
Yeah. This is a big one, and I work with tons and tons of people that really get stuck, and I talk about this a ton, really get stuck in like an all or nothing mindset. And I really try to shift people towards like always something instead of all or nothing.
Mm.
And I think it's important because momentum works in both ways. And so if you are always getting down on yourself when you miss the gym, guess what? That momentum and that habit is going to build. And that then becomes something that becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. And so it is not always going to be perfect. And I think that's what we need to optimize for. I say life is going to life is going to happen. Things are going to happen. I have an 18-month-old, I have a dog, and all of these things. And you're always getting thrown curveballs. But guess what? If I am expecting that and if I am ready and adaptable and understanding that there might even be a hierarchy of like, hey, here's what I want to do. Here's if I don't have time for that. And here's like emergency break glass plan. I love coming up with hierarchies for people because they think it's like always got to be option A. And I'm like, guess what? I can give you B, C, D, E, all of these things so that you can still show up. And like I said, showing up builds momentum in the positive direction so that let's say you show up and it wasn't ideal, but it was 5 straight days you showed up, you got something done. On that sixth day, you're so much more confident to be like, hey, whatever life throws at me, I'm going to show up no matter what. And so for me, having backup plans, having fallback routines, examining your defaults. What do you default to when you're bored, when you're tired, when you're sad, when you're mad, and all of these things? Because I know I used to have not so great defaults. But then when I identified that, I'm like, oh, I can just kind of shift some of these things so that when these situations come up, my defaults are a little bit better. And so for me, uh, getting out of the good, bad, you know, optimal, not optimal, it's like everything is going to fall on a spectrum. And I always love the term anything over zero compounds. And so if you can just do something, guess what? You can build on that and you can build momentum as opposed to doing absolutely nothing or going backwards, where again, even that is not the end of the world. I always say that I'm throwing a lot of terms out here, but it's all coming flooding back to my brain. Um, but I always say to be clear with where you're going, but flexible in how you get there, because life is going to take a weaving route. And so I know what some of my goals are. I know what some of the things I want to achieve are, but I am not on this rigid, Kyle, you have to take step A, step B, step. I am saying I want to get here. Here are the tools that I have to get there, but I know it's going to be a flexible path there. So be clear with where you want to go and flexible how you get there helps a lot of the people that I work with relieve some of that weight and pressure that, we see in social media these days. It's like 30-day abs or, get this thing in 15 days. And it's like, that's what people think is the reality. When truthfully, it's like, the faster you get something, the quicker it is to lose it. And the slower you get something, the easier it is to sustain. And so that's where I want to live is sustainable. I hate the word hacks. I hate the temporary quick fixes. I hate all of that. What I really want you to understand is how can you build a lifestyle that you love and that you can sustain? And that's where all my work stems from.
Which really, everything you just talked about is such a great way to train yourself into other areas of your life. I mean, this is
Yep,
really a big life practice, right?
yep,
The more that you can do exactly what you just said, that transfers over into how you handle other situations, relationships, jobs, etc., right?
yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It is so transferable, and I always talk about, like, for me, it's something that, these are life values and life principles, and, like, you could remove the fitness, the movement, and all of that, and these principles still apply, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that I try to apply them when it comes to sleep. I know sleep is not always gonna be perfect. When it comes to nutrition, guess what? Who wants to live in a world where they have to be 100% perfect on nutrition all the time? I would venture to say almost nobody. I love my chips. I love my burgers, all of those things. But guess what? I'm intentional about when I do these things and I'm intentional about how they fit into my lifestyle. And I enjoy all of the foundations. And I think that's another thing that I think is getting lost in the modern day. People think they have to do the 13-step morning routine and they feel like they have to do the cold plunge every morning and they feel like they have to do all of these like really influencery tough things when really it's like, are you getting enough sleep? Are you consistently eating whole foods? Are you moving your body every day? Are you having a proactive practice for stress management? Like, basics. These are the basics. If those aren't covered, you have so much room to improve just there. Like that's the 80, 90, I'd venture to say 95%. The 5% is like, okay, yes, maybe we can talk about some of these tools and gadgets and technologies. But if we start there and leave that 95%, we are majoring in the minors.
Mm. Preach it, Kyle. Foundations. That is
Yes,
the crux
yes.
of it all. Foundational
Yeah,
work. Yes. Oh.
yeah,
All right. So, okay, let's go back into that whole concept of
yeah,
consistency. I want to really dive in
yeah.
here because I got a few questions around this. All right.
Great.
So, consistency. What matters more? Frequency, intensity, or yeah, let's start there. What matters
Yeah.
more? Frequency or intensity?
Frequency for sure. And I would say, again, I would rather someone show up, let's call it for 5 minutes over 5 days, rather than show up 30 minutes for one day. And again, what this does, I mean, you read any of the habit books, James Clear and Atomic Habits and BJ Fogg and Tiny Habits, and there's a bunch of them, Charles Duhigg and The Power of Habits. All of them point to you have to kind of build this identity around I'm the type of person who does X, Y, or Z. I'm the type of person who goes to bed on time, or I'm the type of person who shows up for movement, and whatever that is. That then builds momentum, or even better, builds confidence. And guess what? A lot of people, when they're starting these journeys, they're a little bit unsure. They're unknown at where to go, what to do, how to do it. Confidence can be the biggest pusher of like, I'm now ready to show up again. And so for me, I would rather you show up for that 5 minutes, get that done. And guess what? You know, we hear dopamine and all these neurochemicals. It does cause this mental reaction of like, your body says, I did something, I checked this off, this was good. And then you keep doing it. And guess what? Like James Clear says, you're casting votes for the person that you want to become. And I think you really have to see yourself as the type of person who does these things because before you can become that person, it actually helps to embody the mindset of that person because then you actually start to take on the behaviors of like, you know what? I'm actually, if I'm the type of person that's healthy, I'm going to take the stairs here instead of the elevator up. Or, you know what? I'm going to park a little bit further away. Or, you know what? I'm going to go on a walk on this break as opposed to picking up my phone and scrolling social media. And when you do that enough times, guess what? You start to seek out different ways that you can be more active or different ways you can be that person. And I think that's where it really starts to open up possibility because you can move more in so many different ways. I can give you 1,000 ways to move more. That's not the issue. The issue is really building the confidence, building the accountability. So, simple answer, frequency for sure over intensity. And then guess what? As you do more with the frequency, you will be able to then push the intensity when you do show up. And so when you try to go intensity first, you end up on that roller coaster ride of, ooh, I did great for 2 days, and then I fell off for 4. Oh, I did great for a week. I fell off for another week. So again, we see this a lot in nutrition. We see this a lot in movement. We see this a lot in sleep. Pick something that you can sustain rather than something that you could do for a week or a month, because we all know I could grind through any diet for 30 days. But is that the diet I want to have for the rest of my life? Heck no. And so again, these are things that you really want to set yourself up for. Even if it's a season of life, whatever it is, do I want to be sustaining this for the season of life? Do I want to be sustaining this for the rest of time? These are all great questions to really take a step back and be like, well, then why am I doing it right now? So that's how I think about it.
Yeah. I always talk about the lowest hanging fruit, like when you're just starting out, like what is the easiest
Yep.
thing that you can do just to build that confidence, to build that consistency, to keep yourself moving
Yep.
forward, to keep yourself motivated?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I use that. I use a similar framing, minimal effective dose, and it's like the
Yeah.
the great exercise science term of like, what is the minimal effective dose? And I think sometimes people take that and are like, oh, like just do the least, effortful thing and whatever. But for me, it's like, no, what is the least amount of effort to get the best results or best kind of buy-in with all of these things? And so, minimal effective dose comes up a ton, and I think the always something over all or nothing comes up a ton as well. But
Yeah.
both all useful frameworks, and there's so many ways to scratch it. But it all starts with like start small, be realistic, focus on the basics because the boring basics are what works. And so yeah, it's something I talk about until I'm blue in the face, and I will continue to talk about.
All right. $1,000,000 question.
Yep,
Because we have a lot of listeners that are neurodivergent, especially ADHD,
yep,
who struggle with consistency and staying on task.
yep.
Do you have any advice for these folks?
Yes. Man, a lot of advice, but I think I would narrow it down into two things. One, accountability. I think whatever form that comes in, I talk a lot about community, but I think just this umbrella term of accountability, that could mean getting a coach that helps you kind of put together the plan and holds you accountable. That could mean working out with a friend. That could mean some sort of technology that nudges you, or whatever the new technologies out there are. That could be a wearable. That could be, I've seen things where you're in an online community like Strava or something like that. Accountability and community are an extremely powerful force. One of the most powerful forces when it comes to staying committed and staying consistent. And so when I think about those things, it is just 100% a necessity for some people. Some people can lone wolf it, but I think it is important to find whatever community looks like and means to you, because that'll help it last for a lifetime. And then on the other end, I would say environment. And we talked a little bit about this, but I'll break it down into some easy categories of people, places, like things and gadgets, and then information. Are you surrounding yourself with the right people? And that goes back to community. Are you surrounding yourselves with the right places, and what does your physical environment look like, whether it's making sure you keep you have a standing desk, or you have an under desk treadmill, or you have a jump rope nearby, or you put your shoes and workout outfit the night before. All of those things can be super helpful. Things speaks to like the gadgets and wearables and things like that. What are the things that are going to help you move along this process? And then one of my favorites that's less talked about is information. Whether you know it or not, you're being influenced by the information you're consuming. And so, if you are constantly consuming negative content, even if it has nothing to do with movement or fitness, that is going to affect your battery, your energy. And so, for me, I think ultimately, can you design the informational appetite, if you will, to be one that is positive, to be one that is going to serve the purpose of helping to motivate you, helping to get you on the right path, or just omitting certain things altogether. For me, I try to have screen time limits because I know there are such positive things that I want to get out of social media, that I want to get out of being on my email and stuff like that. But if I leave it unchecked, I will usually tend to go towards some of the more either negative or non self serving things that I really just don't want to be consuming at that much time. So, again, I try to put some of these things and boundaries and barriers on these things because I know we are fighting a very, very hard battle against some of these technologies, which again, not bad at any level. I think we all want to live in a world where we have social media and we can connect in these communities, but we just have to make sure it doesn't go unchecked, which sometimes can be a problem. So, yeah, I would say accountability, community, and really making sure you're thinking about environment.
Mm. You are so right on the money, Kyle. So right on the
Thank you.
money. I have to say, I have to add to that for anybody listening, how right on the money he is. When I learned that I had ADHD and that my brain loved to fly in 20 different directions at once, accountability groups, I'm in about 3 of them right now for different
Yep.
things. Accountability is huge, huge. Number 2, I literally have stations throughout my house. And what I mean by stations is that they're in my eyesight. I have my workout station. Literally, all of my weights are right here beside my desk. I have my book station of things that I want to read. I have my journal station for when I
Love
need to
it.
get stuff out of my head. Like, you have to set up your environment. Everything he said is so right on the money. I love that so much. Yes. So,
Yeah.
Kyle, if we're expanding just even a little further on this when we come to the
Yep.
consistency, what are some of the most common friction points that you see that quietly kill consistency?
Yeah. This is a good question, and definitely want to take it in a different direction than what we've gone. But I think when it comes to consistency, sometimes there's like both ends of the spectrum on like either not having a plan at all. And so starting on
Mm.
the I have no plan and I'm a little bit anxious because I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it and kind of get lost there. And then there's the other side of the spectrum, which is like, I have planned everything to a T. And if anything goes off of that plan or diverts, then I'm like panicking and getting anxious. And so I think, again, it comes back to just being flexible and being adaptable. And when you're coming into something like this, focusing on the effort, focusing on showing up rather than I am trying to execute some plan perfectly or I am trying to get to some end outcome. And so, again, we really want to focus on the things that we can control. And so I think sometimes when people get into these journeys, they put faith and they put energy into things that they might not be able to control. And I think we can always control our effort, our attitude, our energy, and all of those things. So that would be one. I think, yeah, another thing for me is when I'm thinking about being consistent, it's how can I really try to understand just the general environment that I'm in. Am I ready to change is a big question that I ask because sometimes the right change at the wrong time is the wrong change. And so this is a big one for me because when I work with a lot of people, it's like I really want to land on what is realistic, what is sustainable, but what are you actually ready to take on right now? And sometimes during certain seasons of life, I'll talk summer because we're in summer right now. And a lot of times people want to take on these mammoth goals. I talk to parents a lot, and it's like, I want to take on these mammoth goals. I'm a busy professional, I'm a parent. And guess what? Kids are getting out of school. The weather is changing. So there's sports going on. There's all of these different things happening. And so, again, the right change, they want to, maybe it's lose weight. They want to build a movement practice. They want to do all of these things. But where they are at mentally and where they want and what's ideal might not match their life situation at that point. And so it's really bringing their expectation back to what is realistic during this time And I've helped people really kind of level those expectations because, again, expectations can really, we hear it, expectations can be the thief of joy. And so I think, again, setting those in the right place is super, super important, and assessing your readiness for change. Because, again, I'll say it one more time, the right change at the wrong time is the wrong change. And so we really want to find what is realistic, what can we stick to, what can we mentally really start to process and show up for day in and day out, as opposed to something that looks good, sounds good, but maybe doesn't feel good or isn't that realistic. So those are some other things that I think about, but there's so many, many more friction points and so many more keys to consistency, because it is such an important thing when it comes to how can we get from where we are now to where we want to go.
Can you give us an example? Maybe it is something that you would do, or perhaps it's somebody that you've
Yeah.
already helped. Can you give us an
Yeah.
example of how you have helped somebody either go from doing nothing or from going hard for 2 weeks and then disappearing? Either side of that
Yeah.
spectrum. What do
Yeah.
you coach them in?
Yeah, this is a great one, and this one person popped up in my mind. She was a mother, and she was one of those people that came in with, what we would call a fixed mindset around movement and exercise. She would say things like, I'm not an exerciser, or I don't work out, and all of those things. And I kind of like unpacked those a little bit of like, what does that mean that I'm not an exerciser? Because like, it is, like I said, the movement possibilities in the movement world is so vast. And so, like, we all are movers, we're all exercisers in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you're just not seeing it as that. And so, first, opening it up her perspective to that was a big thing. And then it was a big goal. It was, I think it was 30-pound goal. And she wanted to do this. And maybe it was a year, or maybe it's 8 to 12 months, 8 to 12 month range. And so I was like, okay, understand where your goal is, understand where your head is. And so we kind of worked through a plan that was maybe a little bit underwhelming to her at first. And so she couldn't put together that the plan that we were starting with was not the plan that we were going to get to. And so I convinced her to just get into this plan. We actually found something that she enjoyed doing, which out of all things, I didn't think it'd be this, but it was like walking on her treadmill with the weight vest on, a lightweight vest, incline treadmill walk. She could watch her favorite show on it. And so she could spend some more time doing it. Weights was a struggle, as we know some people still subscribe to the myth that weights are going to make you bulky, or they just don't want to touch any type of resistance or anything like that. And so for me, it was convincing her that, hey, this is actually going to help with things like arthritis. This is actually going to help with joint pain. This is actually going to help with overall strength and activities of daily living. She loved to garden. She loved to be outside. She loved to do all these things. And I'm like, guess what? Strength training is going to make you way more functional when it comes to all of these practices. And so 2 times a week strength training, plus we did the incline treadmill walks. As we worked together and as she started to show up, it was the most beautiful thing, because we started off with a plan that was realistic. We started off with something that she could do. It actually morphed into her asking, what more can I do? And oh my God, can I try this thing? And can I try that thing? And I almost caught her about 2.5 months in. I caught her and I just joked with her and I said, wait, I thought you didn't enjoy exercise. And that was just this beautiful moment of her having that light bulb turn on, of saying, that was me of the past. For her, it was like 30 or 40 years that she had that mindset that she didn't want to exercise. It was intimidating. She didn't like gyms either, so we had to do it in her home, which was great. She had the equipment. But for me, that light bulb moment of her actually starting, and I don't think she necessarily loved the exercise. She loved how the exercise made her feel, and she became addicted to how she felt, and she could not let it go. It was one of those people where we had to make sure we matched her recovery with her work, because she would just be like, Kyle, I went on a 6 mile walk this day, and Kyle, I did this many steps. And so for me, that was a beautiful thing, to turn her from someone who was, I am not an exerciser. And really for her was a mindset shift. That was the biggest thing. turning her into, hey, I am a person that shows up for myself. I'm a person that wants to be a better partner. I want to be a better parent. And so that was really a beautiful story of how this works. And guess what? She lost more than 30 pounds. She sustains all of the things we're doing now. We don't even work together. She just messages me every so often to, staying on the journey. And that's what I love too, is giving people the tools and empowering people so that they don't necessarily always need a product or a service or a person. That there's no better gift I can give anyone, or there's no better thing you can do for someone than to give them, like I said, agency and ownership and empowerment over their health, over their habits, over their energy. So that story, yeah, man, I smile ear to ear when I think about it because of where she came in and where she ended. It's just like a total head and shoulders switch.
Kyle, about how old was she?
She was in her high 50s when she started, and we worked together for about 2 to 3 years. So yeah,
Mm.
probably low 60s to high 50s.
So let's emphasize here that
Yep.
it doesn't matter how old you are, that you
Yep.
can change your mindset, you can change your ways and your behaviors, and
Yep.
you can do something different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's such a beautiful thing because there's no bad time to start.
Yeah.
It's just like doing these things is going to help you at any age, is going to help you at any fitness level, is going to help you at any training age, whatever the metric is. Start where you are. And the most important thing is to start. I actually just wrote on this concept. The famous quote or phrase is like, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. And so I love that phrase of like, right now, we have the power, the control, the energy to do it. And if we can, put that foot in front of the other and get started. Take that first step, because every journey, a journey of 1,000 steps, starts with one. And so, can we start with that first step? Can we build that momentum? Because, yeah, I don't know how many times I can say it in a podcast, but momentum is such a powerful thing. And I think when people start to feel what exercise and what movement and what physical activity does to them, not just from a physical standpoint, like we talked about, mentally, energetically, emotionally, spiritually. That is something that you cannot replicate. I always ask people, and sometimes, this can be a question that can backfire, but I always ask people, when's the last time that you worked out or did something active and you regretted it? And most people, 99% of the time, they do not regret showing up for a workout. They do not regret going for the hike. They do not regret swimming in the ocean or whatever it is. And so for me, it's like that tells you something. You finished and you felt better afterwards. And so I'm always craving different experiences where I go into it and I feel better afterwards. And movement is one that 100% of the time for me, I feel better afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna joke and say you always do have that 1%.
I know. There's those
There's
people
always
out
that
there.
1%. There's always that 1%.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you helped her to find something that she actually really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And earlier, you mentioned the word joy. So let's
Yeah.
talk about joy. People
Yeah.
hear joy movement and maybe they start thinking, "Oh, I can dance in my kitchen," or,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I would love to hear what your thoughts are, what your insight is on bringing joy back into movement that's actually in a very practical way. Ways that
Yeah.
you can implement this as an adult and not
Yeah.
feel like you're just dancing around the kitchen, even though I think
Yeah.
that that's a great way to move your body. But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a great question, and I think practicality is something that is very, very important, especially in the modern world. Like I said, we're busy, we're distracted, there's things pulling at our attention and our energy. On the practical side, I would say there's a couple things that I love, which are under desk treadmill, standing desk. I love like lightweight weighted vests. So like think like anywhere from 5 to 10% of your body weight on a weighted vest that you can wear around. It's going to be impactful. And again, start small, build your way up. Walks, I think people so underestimate walks. And I think this is something that I talk about a lot. when we look at the movement problem, sometimes people think more exercise, more exercise, more exercise. I challenge people to think, how can we also think about less inactivity? And so sometimes it's actually not about getting more in that time block, or whether it's the gym or whatever that is. Sometimes it's actually breaking up the long periods of sedentary bouts throughout your day. And so that's why some of these tools within our day can be great. Also, it's simple things like, again, the way I actually put this is all movement counts even when you're not counting it. And so playing with your kids, taking your dog on a walk, gardening, cooking food, all of these things, even when you mentally start to count those things in your head, it has a profound effect on how that actually shows up. Aaliyah Crum, she's a researcher out of Stanford. Her work has become super popular in what she calls belief effects. She worked with hotel maids. And what she did with these hotel maids was she measured their output as they're going through their day doing their job. And she marked that down. And then she did this really, really cool thing, which was told them, hey, do you guys know that the work that you're doing is actually like physical activity and exercise? And they all were like, oh no, like we don't really see it like that. And so she then told them about the benefits of what they're doing, the different actions they're doing. They're squatting down, they're reaching, they're doing all these things, they're going up steps, they're carrying equipment. She told them about what they were doing and that it was activity, measured them again after telling them. And wouldn't you know, heart rate improved, blood pressure improved, they lost weight. They didn't change what they were doing. They didn't do more. They didn't do any of these things. I thought that was one of the most incredible and fascinating studies that I've ever seen of just like mentally just getting into that place put them in a better spot to actually reap the benefits of what they were doing. And so for me, the all movement counts, even when you're not counting it, is to try and see more of your life as movement and see more of the opportunities in your life. The other stat that is a popular one is like at airports, only 2% of people take the stairs and 98% of people take the escalators. And we all have been there. We all know, but I've gotten my mom, I've gotten my wife to, whenever we're at the airport, when we can. Now we have an 18-month-old. That's a different story. Strollering upstairs is no joke, but we go up the stairs and we carry our bags. This is hilarious because everybody's like looking at us like, why are they walking up the stairs? And it's so bad that is the looks that we're getting when we're trying to do something healthy. But it's the irony just is hilarious because we're all about to go sit on a plane for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, yet everybody's sitting down before they're about to go sit down. And for me, I'm like walking in the airport, I'm like doing walks, I'm checking out the bookstore, I'm going up and down stairs. So again, when we can start to see in our environment where movement is and inject it in these little places, not exercise, it doesn't have to be exercise. It can be standing more, it can be exercise snacks, all of these little things. That is really when things start to transform. And that is where a lot of this low hanging fruit that you talked about earlier, we can find a lot of that in that movement. So, yeah, just some funny stories about seeing movement in your environment.
Yeah, which really is such a beautiful lead in to talking about your book. Let's talk about your book. It's called
Yeah,
Move, Thrive, and Come Alive.
yeah,
I would love to know two things, especially.
yeah,
Number one, what is the core promise coming from this book? What is it
yeah,
all about? And number two, is there a favorite chapter or a favorite part in your book that just
yeah.
inspires you or that you were excited to write about?
Yeah. Oh, yes. This is awesome, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Yes, this book, the premise of it, we've been talking about it, which is awesome, and it kind of just encapsulates this conversation. Really, the premise is to rethink fitness, to drop any preconceived notions of fitness, rethink fitness, and like we've been talking about, reclaim the joy of movement. And now, I always tell people the best movement practice includes a little bit of what you want and love and a little bit of what you need together, because we can't only do the things that we just love and forget some of the things that we might not love. I think there are ways to actually enjoy the things that we don't love, but that's another conversation.
But
So,
also, you don't know. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and you may
yes.
find you love something that you have
Yep.
never even tried. Yeah.
That is the truth. And I've seen,
Yeah.
we just talked about that story with my member. And yeah, I think people all the time put movement in a box. And I try to open up that box and say, movement can be anything, anywhere, anytime. And so, really, this premise of like rethinking fitness, redefining fitness, and the way that makes the most sense for you, and it's also like practical. I wanted this book, as I wrote it, to be practical, accessible, and sustainable. Like those are the words, and digestible. Like those are the words that come to my mind when I think about it. And so the way I actually wrote it is there's 120 plus tips, tools, habits, strategies, and each of those tips, tools, and habits is about 1 page long. So if you're not a reader, guess what? You can open up to any page. Can you read 1 page? I'd hope so. I'd hope you have 3 to 4 minutes to read 1 page. And so for me, that was how I wanted to write it, because I understand people are busy, attention is valuable. I want you to be able to find any page in this book and find some value. And so with that, I broke it up into sections where, like, I think people can resonate with. There's a getting started section. There's a building a routine section. There's a training your body section. There's a training your mind section. There's a expanding your horizons. All of these sections are like, hey, maybe expanding your horizons is like, I'm actually a fitness enthusiast. I want to learn about what's cutting edge and going on in the movement world. Maybe you are on day one, you're intimidated as hell, and you want to get into this world, but you're scared. Guess what? Getting started, that's perfect. Or building a routine, that's perfect. And so I wanted everybody to see themselves in this book. And for me, it was getting back to the joy of like, all of the stories from my life, all of the stories from the people that I've worked with, all of the stories that I've consumed, how can I bring that together and show people that movement is for everyone? And so that is really what this book is: a call to move better, a call to move more, a call to feel better, a call to live fully, a call to, dare I say it, bring vitality back to your life. And so it has been just such a pleasure. It's been like 3 or 4 years of just writing and researching and gathering stories. Um, but it seems like the perfect timing. Like, coming out of COVID, coming out of all of this stuff, we've kind of been in this like malaise of like, what to do, when to do it, how to do it. A lot of voices, a lot of just noise out there. I want this to just be pure fundamentals, foundational, meet people where they are, and yeah, that was the goal with writing it, and I hope that's what that the goal is as people pick it up.
Mm, awesome. Well,
Yeah,
talking about meeting people where they're at, if
yeah,
somebody has pain or old injuries or fear of doing it wrong,
yeah,
how either have you coached or how can the book help to coach that person through this to help them move
yeah.
forward?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think a lot of people deal with aches and ailments and prior injuries and things that come up. My first call is to, one, start as small as you can and do the things that are pain free. Hopefully, walking is one of those things that you can do, and I think that's such a great place to start, not just from, like we said, the physical aspects of circulation, reducing inflammation, reducing joint stiffness, and really doing all these things, but just to kind of get your body moving for other activities that you might take on. But for me, it is all about really being proactive and preventative as opposed to trying to have interventions. A lot of people, again, they start with something that they think they need to do as opposed to starting with what their body and what their mind is ready for. And so that's why I typically, unless it's working with special populations like athletes or first responders or people who are really, really, kind of in tune with this space, I usually start people a little bit less than where they think they are, because again, we want to build momentum, we want to build confidence, and we also need to assess and understand what you are capable of. And so I take people through a lot of movement assessments, and you can even, I have one in my book actually, like a very basic movement assessment. Take yourself through some of these exercises. See, it's again, not necessarily a good or bad, it's just information. Where are you starting? If you know where you're starting, then you can help prevent what happens way too much, which is, Kyle, I wanted to get back into the exercise routine. I was starting for 2 weeks and then I blew out my shoulder, or, and then I did this to my calf, or, and then this happened. And I'm like, why is that? Probably because you went too fast, too intense, too hard, too soon. And guess what? That injury not only is going to discourage you from coming back, it's going to set you back weeks, months, years sometimes. And so for me, it's like, first, do no harm. First, assess where we are, and then we can start to move forward. I think James Clear says in his book, Atomic Habits, we have to standardize before we optimize. And so I think people want to jump to optimal, but it's like, let's standardize the habit first. Let's figure out what works, what doesn't, where we can push to. This is why it's great to have a coach or a community or an accountability partner. But for me, it's definitely one of those things that I'm very, very cautious with. And the last thing I'll say is, don't underestimate the power of everything else outside of exercise, i.e., sleep, i.e., nutrition, i.e., stress management, because you could be crushing your workout routine, hitting everything to a T. If you're not sleeping correctly or enough, if you are not eating enough protein, if you want to build muscle, if you are not managing your stress and you're always in a stressful environment or chronic stress, guess what? You're actually not going to probably get the benefits that you want out of that movement. And so it is a holistic picture. It is a integrative picture. And anybody who's worked with me knows that I rarely, rarely talk in isolation about just fitness or just exercise. It's always okay, well, how are you sleeping? How can we make sure that we're putting all of these things together in a manageable way and not trying to give you 19 things to do, but you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you're sleeping 4 hours a night, but doing 2 hours of exercise every day. Because guess what? When do we repair? When do we recover? It's during sleep. And guess what? What gives our body the parts and things it needs to recover? It's our nutrition. So again, these things all work together. And any good practitioner or coach would be, doing you a disservice if they're not thinking about these other things as well.
Yeah, yeah. So spot on. Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I guess I kind of want to look at just the other side. As we bring
Yeah.
this podcast to a wrap, I want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're also hitting the population that's stressed out, burned out, busy, busy people
Yeah.
that don't have the time to go to
Yeah.
the gym to do a full workout. So I
Yeah.
would love to hear if somebody came into your office and they
Yeah.
said, listen, I don't have time to work out. I know I need to. I can't go to a gym. What would you recommend as maybe some of the very first movement habits that you would
Yeah.
recommend for somebody in this category?
Yep, this is a great question and one that I get a ton. And
I'm
so
sure.
the first tools, the first tools that I go to, we talked about it. First, number one is walks. I think there's such a good nature walk. It could be a creativity stress relief walk. It could be a post meal walk. It could be a morning walk, evening walk. I always say walks are like the gateway habit. Once you start walking more, you see how beneficial it is, and you're like, ooh, what other movement things can I do throughout the day? So that's number one. Get your walks in. I think what I tell people, a lot of people think 10,000 steps. That's what's seared into everybody's head. Research actually points to 7,000. You're getting a ton of benefits if you're hitting that number. But guess what? Even if you're not there, if you're at 2 or 3 or 4, again, not judgment, not good or bad, it's information. I tell people, can you get 1,000 more steps than where you are now? What that is, if you're not tracking or don't have a wearable, 10 to 15 minutes more a day. And it's super simple, super easy to think about. That alone, research has shown 23% decrease in mortality risk with just 1,000 extra steps from wherever you are. So again, I can't think of anything with more bang in your buck than that. So that's one. Number two is this idea of like exercise snacks. I've mentioned it a couple times throughout the podcast. What does that actually look like? For me, breaking up long bouts of sitting. So if you're working for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours sitting at a desk, can you move 5 minutes out of every hour? Can you stand up and stretch? I do kind of these anti-sit stretches, and I'll do it for 30 seconds, sit back down, get back into work. It does not take much. Really what you're doing, you're increasing blood flow. You're reducing this joint stiffness, sorry, I should say. The best way I've heard it put is the body that you sit in all day is the body that you'll live in and live with. And so think about that. When you're sitting, your shoulders are hunched, your neck is forward, your back is hurting, your glutes, quads, hamstrings are all turned off. So guess what? When you go to then do something active, that's what your body is prioritizing. That's the shape it's been in all day. So it's hard for it to think about what it should prioritize if you're not giving it some idea of that. And that's why I say hit some stretches, touch some shapes, do some things that tell your body, hey, it's okay to do a lunge. Hey, it's okay to squat down. It's okay to hinge over so I don't pull out my back. Because again, the body that you prioritize and the shapes that you prioritize become what your body actually starts to express. So, exercise snacks can be as small as stand up, stretch, sit back down. It can be as small as one thing that I love is like 5 squats, 5 lunges each leg, and then either 5 desk push-ups on your desk, wall push-ups, or regular push-ups. Get back into it. My wife and my dog, for that matter, sometimes think I'm crazy because I'll be writing on my laptop and then I'll just be like, oof, I kind of feel myself like lagging a little bit in energy. I'll stand up, I'll do that. And she's just looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, just doing a quick exercise snack. This is the only snack I say you can definitely binge on it. So go for it. Um, and then lastly, I would say when it comes to just injecting movement throughout the day is like, how do you have different practices that are embedded into your day? So like, let me explain that. For me, I work remote, which is, I love working remote. That's great. I also love in person. So I do a lot of community based things. But for me, there's nobody telling me, Kyle, hey, go stand up, or Kyle, hey, do this thing. I have to set practices. What do most people live off of? They live off their schedule. And so for me, I do what's called a 9-12-3. At 9 a.m., 12, and 3, there's meetings on my calendar, 5 minutes long. That's basically just a reminder. Hey, you should move. Sometimes I have a meeting during that time and I actually can't do it, but at least it's there to remind me. So maybe when I get done, I do it. But there has to be reminders, nudges, environmental things that come. For me, it used to be when I was in office, me and a couple of we worked at a fitness company. So of course we would do something like this, but after 12, everybody would go to standing desk. It's like right after lunch, and you're kind of getting into that time where you get a little lethargic and you're like, 2, 3 p.m. comes around. But guess what? When you're standing, it's a little harder to be that lethargic. And so after 12, raise to standing. So again, whatever it is it 5 minutes every hour? Is it, standing after 12? Is it 9-12-3? What are the little like heuristics you can have to really inject movement into your day? And like I said, does not have to be much. It can be simple. It can be straightforward. But these things matter a ton and they move the needle a ton. It's not going to show up overnight or in a week. You're not going to lose 10 pounds. But I guarantee you, and I always bring up this stat, if you stand around 4 to 5 hours per day more over a year, that's almost 18,000 plus calories burned, which is over 5 pounds of fat when you think about it that way. So again, seems small in the day to day, but if you stretch that out and you're doing these things and you're adding in other habits, it can be very, very powerful. So again, might not seem like it's working day of, but I guarantee you, assess your energy, audit your energy throughout the day, add these movement practices and reassess. I guarantee you that you'll be more productive. I guarantee you you'll feel better. So a couple things: walks, exercise, snacks, designing your environment.
Mm, mm. So good. So good.
Yeah.
Kyle, this has been incredible,
Yeah.
and I can't wait to learn about where people can find you and where to get your book. But
Yeah.
before we go there, before we go to all the logistical stuff,
Yep.
let's do a few rapid fire questions. I want people to know what you, as the movement expert, does
Yeah.
in certain situations, or just some fun things about how you see yourself. Okay. All right. So,
Amazing. Let's
are
do it.
you ready?
Yes, I'm
Ready.
ready.
Okay. All right. There's 3 of them. Here we go. Number
Yep.
1. What's a movement rule that you broke that has actually made you healthier?
Oof. I used to be someone that was like, I need to spend 60 minutes or 30 minutes in the gym for it to count. And guess what?
Yes.
That rule got broken for me because I have a dog and an 18-month-old and commitments and things. And so that rule got shattered. And it actually ended up being something that liberated me from the rigid nature of, Kyle, you have to be in the gym for this long in order for it to count, or you have to burn this many calories. And it opened me up to so many more movement possibilities of how I work out at home, how I work out with my 18-month-old, how I go on runs with my dog, all of these little things. And so it really actually ended up being something that is a godsend because now I don't have that pressure. I just want to show up for myself, for my family, for my kids, for all the things. So,
Mm. I think that's an inspiring one for a lot of people. Good one. All
yeah.
right, number 2. What is your own personal sign that you need movement for your mood to shift?
My personal sign is, I think for me, there's just like an underlying energy lag slash how I show up in different interactions and all of those things. Like I know that I need movement to really push my energy meter to the top. And when I can do that, when I can fill my own cup, I have the energy to pour into all different types of things. And so for me, if I ever find myself a little bit timid on like bringing energy to an interaction, I'm like, ooh, that's not Kyle. That's not how I operate. And so I try to work out in the morning for that purpose. Or we do post meal walks in our family. And so that helps me kind of refill that battery and refill that cup. But if sometimes I'm like missing out on movement, it starts to creep into how I show up. And I don't love that. So that's why movement's an everyday practice for me because I want to be energetic. I want to be enthusiastic and I want to really bring the energy to all my interactions.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and finally, number 3, and this is just more of
Yep.
a fun one.
Yep.
If your body had a theme song on a sluggish day, what would it be?
Oh man. If my body had a theme song,
Yeah,
the first thing that came to mind, which I'll just say is
which
"Don't
is the
Stop
best.
Believing." Don't stop believing. So I practice this stuff. I preach it all. Don't stop believing in what you know. That would be ringing in my head. So there you go. That's
Good
unfiltered.
one. I love it. I love it. All right. Kyle, where can
Yeah.
people find you? Where can they get your book? And where are you hanging out?
Yeah. Yes, I am based in Los Angeles, California. It is beautiful. I can't wait to get outside after this. But where can people find me? On Instagram and LinkedIn, I try to post content regularly. My Instagram is Kyle Gonzalez 3, Gonzalez 3. And then, like you mentioned, I have a new book, Move, Thrive, Come Alive, came out last week, and it's just been incredible. The reception, the feedback, all of it has just been overwhelming, and I'm so grateful. I'm so humbled by it all. Writing a book is a long and beautiful journey, and it couldn't have been more perfect in how it all worked out and how it came out. So yeah, it's available everywhere books are sold: Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble, in your local bookstore. But I am always looking to write, to read, to stay up in this field, and to make sure that I'm doing what is my mission, which is to empower people to live healthier, happier, more active lives, and to really redefine what it means to be healthy in this modern day. Because I think sometimes we lose touch with it, and we've talked about it at nauseum today. But I will be screaming from the rooftops until there's no more rooftops for me to scream at.
And amazing listeners, as always, all of those links will be down in the show notes. So make sure you jump on down there and get your hands onto that book and get into Kyle's world. Kyle, do you have any last words that you would like to lay on the listeners before we hang it up for today?
Yeah. One, thank you. I think, like I said, we are kindred spirits, and I thank you for the energy and the questions and everything. It's always a pleasure to just come and speak on these things. But also, for anybody out there and everybody out there that is just looking to get into movement, I would encourage you to open up your mind to the different possibilities that movement can bring and understand that movement can do so much for you. Last thing I'll say is I call it the rule of 1%. The CDC recommends 150 minutes of exercise a week, and that equals 1% of your week. And so understand that sometimes it's not a time problem, it can be a priority problem, but that 1% of your week can change 100% of your life. And so I think people just understanding that it doesn't take a lot of time, It just takes intentionality, and I promise it'll be worth it.
Mm. Thank you so much, Kyle. I love this conversation so much. It really takes movement out of the I should category and brings
Yes.
it back into the this supports my life category. So, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your expertise and your knowledge and your passion. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
If you're listening and you've been stuck in all or nothing, either doing nothing or going hard and burning out, let this be your permission slip today. Let it be your permission slip that you can build something sustainable. Consistency is not about being perfect. It's about creating a relationship with movement that you can return to over and over and over again, even when life is lifing. Kyle's book is Move, Thrive, and Come Alive. And I will make sure, as I said earlier, to link everything down in the show notes. And until next time, keep spreading that beautiful energy you were born to share.